Welcome back, blade fans. This old sword is with you, and I have a brand new higher end production knife today, this morning, whenever you're listening to this. And this is by Miguron, that you may be familiar with that name, but it is going instead by this name, which I believe sort of a subdivision of Megaron knives. This is Am8 knives. And we have a nice box I'll show you in a moment. Well, why don't I show it to you now? Kind of a nice drawer sort of affair, and nice presentation. Give you the standard microfiber cloth and little something here to read, dedicated to excellent materials, workmanship, and affordable price. And I have other Megaron knives that I'm going to show you in a moment. So we'll call this the Am8. That's what they seem to be going by. I got this from White Mountain Knives and they called it Megaron. So the model is the Flix, F-L-I-X. It is a premium materials. It has an M390 blade. Kind of a bright satin finish, almost polished. Longitudinal satin finish horizontally. There is the logo that's new, the Am8. And on this side we have merely the steel, so it's not heavily branded. It is a frame lock front flipper, but also a finger flicking knife, hence the name Flix. It's from a very nice kind of a shred carbon fiber in two tones. We'll get into that in a minute. Titanium bolster, front flip, so you can front flip like that. And you'll notice on this side you have a short fuller, but only on the right side of the blade. And I've only seen that thus far on one of the Vero knives that I borrowed from Knife Junkie Bob DeMarco. And here's the purpose of that. You have a place for the middle finger to flick that out without needing a full-length fuller. So its intended purpose is to aid in opening the knife through that opening method. Now we have kind of a blued pivot on both sides with a brass colored surround. It's a T8. It's a drop point blade, 3.5 inches long. And we've got a little over 8 inches overall for the knife. We'll give you some measurements in a moment. Nicely jimped and relieved release, and it's very smooth. Not quite drop shut, but I haven't really broken it in much yet either. Nice, interesting, modern style straight titanium clip. And that's a quick overview. Look at how muted the front flipper tab is. It blends right in with the square of the bolster. And we got a very nice textured lined pattern like a wave in the bolster on both sides, and that blends in nicely there. Some quick measurements, if I can find the tape. Here we go. Back out a little first. Overall length of this knife is actually a little longer than I thought. Call it 8.4. Got a blade of 3.5 inches, maybe just a tiny bit more, and 3.5 inches on the sharpened edge. Notice we have a full choil that is sort of a blend of the frame with the blade, so it's actually more in the, it's less of a choil and more of a go forward on the handle. Getting to the thicknesses. Handle in inches. 0.54. Let's make sure we got that right. 0.54. I was right. Blade stock. Right up here. 3 millimeters. Gonna have an upside down weight if I do it that way. All right, we're zeroed out for now. And we've got 4.68 ounces. Not extremely light, but it's a medium-sized folder, what I call medium size. That means I've got about 3/4 of an inch to an inch left over at the base of my little pinky. If I choke up, I've got way more left over. Got enough of a flat on this wedged blade to lay my thumb should I want to, and a little bit of jimping there that's really the jimping for the front flipper, and it's fairly smooth. It's not very aggressive. That sort of is a little bit of an issue in front flicking it. You got to really accelerate, although the detent is not very strong. It's not weak, but it's about that strong. Middle finger flick it, no problem all day. You can get the flesh of your middle finger right in there. Now, a few things that I noticed, and this came in just recently. This, shall we call it shred carbon fiber, has some flaws in the surface, which I've seen on other knives when they try to shred or marble the carbon fiber. You get a little bit of fallout. You get a little bit of surface pockets, I guess I'll call it. The other thing I noticed is that I thought I could see some machine marks. You got to get it in the right light. Some of these longitudinal lines that aren't part of the carbon fiber fabric, pattern rather. And then the other thing I saw was kind of a gap, a very, very slight gap between the carbon fiber handle and the bolster. And you can see that. We can't. That's really cheating to see it here because that's the frame lock dropping down. But fit and finish, I feel for a $200 knife, right? $195, something like that. Less your 10% discount if you do buy it, about $180 or so. Fit and finish for this price of knife, I think, could be slightly better. While not bad, I think when I start looking at some of the chamfering around the edges, it is nicely contoured, by the way, so it has a very comfortable feel in the hand, very neutral. I mean, you could go point down pretty easily. Fits nice. And you've got quality materials. You've got titanium, you've got carbon fiber, you've got M390. So, I mean, that's driving the price up. And it's a cool looking knife. It's very kind of modern and simple in the design. At the same time, they embellished it with a lot of little flourishes here, you know. But I feel they could have used maybe a little better handle material, or maybe this is just a bad piece. I don't know. See, you know, flaws like that, and that, and that. I don't want to pick on it too much and make a big deal about those. It may not even bother you. But when you're paying that kind of money, I have seen, for instance, on Tucson knives, on concept knives, on Wii knives certainly, carbon fiber that's just pristine, beautiful. This unfortunately is a little shabby. I mean, that's what I'm going to say, and it sort of detracts from an otherwise kind of collectible knife, if you will. If you carry it, you're not going to care, you know? If you buy a $200 knife, front flipper, finger flicking knife that's with a very smooth bearing action, you may not give a darn about little imperfections in the materials like that, but then again, you might. I mean, it's a chamfered edge, chamfered and rounded. And whether or not they intended to have a texture here or they're just machine marks along those chamfers, I am not sure. Now, I have several other Megaron knives, really same manufacturer. This is the Velona, one of my favorite large budget knives. And I think these things are coming in like no more than 50 bucks. And it's like huge blade. What is it? Yeah, 4 inches. It's over 4 inches. It's like 4 1/8. Beautiful full-size knife, G10. I find nothing wrong with the workmanship on this knife, and at a much lower price point. One of my favorites from 2021, the Megaron Velona. And I have a couple others. I was drawn to this from some reviews by other reviewers, and it looked really, really cool. Still looks very cool to me. But those are my little nitpicks about it. No lanyard hole, of course, and, well, not of course, but, and the clip is right side, tip up only carry. But I like the overall concept and look. And I don't have other Megaron knives that have any materials flaws that I'm aware of. One is all titanium anyway. But let's take a look at this Am8 Flix next to a couple other staples. Here we have the Rat 1 from Ontario, just for size comparisons. That's going to be a little bigger. Oops. There goes the camera. And here we have the Griptilian, of course, from Benchmade. And that is going to be a tad bit smaller than the Flix. No weight relieving. I think I mentioned that. I looked. I think the weight relieving really has to do with the fact that they had to mill out. Did they mill it out? No, really it's a, these are added on handle slabs basically that mate to the bolster here. But basically, let's see. Well, so that's all milled out. So we went from full thickness bolster. I don't see any line there, so they're not adding the bolster onto the liners. So what we have is one piece of titanium here that's milled for the handles, and that's your weight reduction basically. At least that's my thinking on it. And yes, there's a partial backspacer. No standoffs or anything like that. Pretty simple, pretty basic, classic, almost spear point, drop point blade design. Let me know what you think. I certainly don't want to take too many points away from this knife. It's a nice design. It's a handsome looking knife. Got collectible qualities to it as well as usability. Comes through with a pretty decent edge. Could be better as factory edges go. I can compare it with other knives that come through with laser edges, but it's a little bit thick, not exceedingly so. 3mm blade stock's not a lot, but the edge is not what I would call thin, certainly not what I'd call thick either. But I ramble on, so let me not do that, and let me invite you to comment on this video. Don't forget to give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. We'll catch you soon.